Hey everybody, I'm Deborah Richmond. I am working on a quilt today, working on the binding, finishing this quilt, and it's almost done. The last thing I need to do is I need to create the finish to the binding, and I have a special tool that I'm going to use that helps me do that, and it's called the binding tool. So let me show you what I have. I have my quilt, I have sewn the binding all the way around, and I've left open 12 inches here at the very end of the binding. I need at least 10-inch tails, so this is one tail and this being the other side. Plenty of room here. At least 10 inches in order to create that perfect binding. Now the goal is that we're going to be finishing this binding so that we have a bias seam right here that perfectly finishes, and we can turn that under and the binding will fit perfectly. So usually there's a lot of guesswork involved in trying to get that just right. This tool that I have takes the guesswork out of it. So this is the tool we're going to be using. This is called the Binding Tool by TQM Products, and this is a genius little tool that will make you look like a genius when you're finishing your bindings. So let me show you how this works. On this tool there is a line that is right here. Now the tool itself has written instructions right on it on how to use it, and also if you're using it for the first couple of times, you may want to come back to this video where I show you exactly how to use it. After you've used it a couple times, you'll remember how to use it from there after, because it is so easy. So here is the line that's very important to us. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my ruler down onto my quilt, and I'm going to make sure that the words are facing up. If I flip it over, all the writing is backwards. So I want to make sure all the writing is facing up. And I'm going to tuck this binding tool right here into where this seam ends, and I'm going to pull my fabric over. Then I am going to take a pencil. Actually, normally I would take a marking tool that will come out. Okay, so I'm going to take any type of marking tool, and I'm going to pull this binding open, and I'm going to make a mark right here where that line is on the tool. Again, that line that I showed you. Okay, so I'm going to take the tool away, and I can see where this mark is, and I'm going to extend it all the way across, just lightly, enough for me to see it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this binding out to the side, and I would have my cutting board underneath, and I'm going to place this tool now exactly where that line is that I drew. So the line that I was using as a guide is going to go directly onto the line I've drawn, and now I'm going to cut that binding exactly where that line is. Okay, then I'm going to set this aside, keeping the ruler up where I can read the words. I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to now tuck it right next to the other side of our binding. Now if you keep the ruler upright and you simply turn it and tuck it under, you'll have the correct angles that we need in order to sew this together when we're done. So pulling open this binding, I am going to make a mark exactly on that exact same line, and this time I'm actually going to make the mark just over here on this outside edge. Actually, you can draw it all the way across. It's not going to matter because this part's going to be cut off. All right, so now I'm going to pull this out to the side. I see where my mark is. This time when I place the ruler, I'm not going to be placing the line directly on the line. Instead, I'm going to snug this point that has the letter A on it right on that line. Now that's the only difference from the two different sides, is where exactly you're placing it. And then once I have that directly on the line, I will cut, and I will cut. Now the thing about this is it's kind of foolproof, because if you make the mistake that many people do the first time, and you place the line you've drawn on your fabric directly on this line, all that's going to happen is your binding's going to be a couple of inches too long, and you're going to get that second chance to realize, oh, I didn't do it correctly, and be able to now place, you'll still have your line here, now place your ruler the tip right on that line, and then cut from there. Once you have made the cut on both sides, you now simply are going to pick up this quilt with the ends that you've cut. You're going to match them up right sides together, go to your sewing machine and sew them, and then when you come back to lay out your quilt back on the table, you will see that they are going to match perfectly here, and they're going to have a bias, nice bias seam. So again, this is called the binding tool. If you need to look at the instructions a couple of times, go ahead and do that. But really, once you've used it a couple times, it's pretty easy to use, and you're going to love this every time you finish a quilt. I'm going to be using this with every quilt that I finish from now on. Thanks for joining me.
And be sure to subscribe to our channel. You can do so here by clicking the subscribe button. That way you'll find out about new videos as they become available.